Whereas U.S. laws and regulations make exports to Cuba difficult and burdensome, if not outright prohibited with numerous federal regulations, including restrictions on credit, which limit the ability of our business to compete, serve the Cuban market and allow international competitors to capitalize, and
whereas a strict embargo with the Republic of Cuba places significant restrictions and prohibition on U.S. and Cuban relationships, especially in trade, travel, and financial transactions, and
whereas all people are created, it is incomprehensible for a country founded on those values to maintain the embargo against Cuba.
Whereas since 2008, Cuba has undertaken more than 300 economic reforms designed to encourage private enterprise and small businesses, and
whereas the main obstacle to full estimation of foreign access to the internet, these restrictions bring about cultural engagement to the other islands.
Whereas the Republic of Cuba, among 11 million people and so partially in the U.S., is a logical target for expanded U.S. export, normalizing trade relations between the U.S. and Cuba will enhance Cuban citizens' access to affordable food while providing the U.S. farm and business community a new market, and
whereas that violates the right of Cubans to self-determination and is an act of oppression and an act of war, and
whereas many of our citizens have visited Cuba and participated in governmental, cultural, and human rights exchanges, and we recognize that our two countries have much more in common than we have differences.
And therefore be it, was there someone else?
Oh, and treatment of diabetic foot ulcers, and in rural delivery of health care and its vaccine industry will be able to ship more of its high-quality products to New Orleans to be distributed to underserved populations at lower costs.
Therefore, be it resolved that the City of New Orleans City Council and Mayor condemn the embargo of Cuba and demand an end to the embargo now. That is the resolution I would like us to get passed, and I'm going to pass out a sign-in sheet where you can sign on and say you agree with that, because I haven't set up no meetings with the mayor or the city council yet, but I want to build that. So are we all good for that?
Yeah.
In the interest of time, because I'm long-winded, I actually wrote a 3-minute speech, so I'm going to read it.
Ted, real quick, thank you for that. That was excellent presentation thus far. Also, Ted is going to take some questions after he gets done with his speech here. So just so you know, there are index cards on the left and right side of the stage by which we will take your questions. So please feel free at any time to fill out those index cards with your question on it. Please write as legibly as possible so that the moderators can read it.
So, first of all, I want to thank all of the people who responded to my appeal of support for passing this resolution condemning the embargo of Cuba. I want to thank Pat Ryan in particular, because if it weren't for him, I wouldn't have got to go to Cuba and discovered how many friends and people I met. Even though I couldn't speak Spanish, we were communicating. And so now I'm trying to learn Spanish so I can be better next time. But the question here is why, with all the problems we have, is Ted talking about a resolution condemning the embargo of Cuba? Here we are, fighting against the chemical companies, poisoning our people in Death Alley, and contributing to the existential threat of climate change. Here we are, fighting to protect our immigrant brothers and sisters from having their babies torn from their arms and locked in the cages. They are crying for their mothers while sleeping on concrete cold floors while their parents are being deported. At the same time, murderous white racists driven by the hatred spewed from the White House, are committing mass murders. Here we are fighting mass incarceration, police brutality, massive voter suppression to steal the next election, and the president encouraging and supporting European fascist governments and movements that have proven historically to end in war and genocide. So why are we talking about Cuba? There's one enemy. Every issue that I talked about, on the other side of that issue is the same enemy. That is the enemy that has maintained the embargo of Cuba. That is the enemy, the same enemy that has overthrown governments in Central and South America and is now attacking Venezuela so they can steal their oil and escalating the attack on Cuba. We are on the same side with the Cuban people, fighting against the same oppressions. The Cuban people have withstood the Kennedy administration's Bay of Pigs invasion, hundreds of assassinations attempts on Fidel, the CIA's poisoning of the sugarcane fields, and endless attacks by our government. But the Cuban people, in spite of this, have maintained their revolutionary spirit and have never bowed down. Not only have they never bowed down, but look what they have achieved. Cuba is the only country in the Americas without child malnutrition. It was declared an international paradise for infants by UNICEF, Emergency Fund for Children. It has the lowest death rate and lowest child death rate in the Americas. 130,000 medical school graduates since 1961. Eliminated homelessness. Developed vaccines against cancer. Sent 796 doctors and nurses to Liberia and Guinea. Cuba has the best educational system in Latin America. They don't have no illiteracy in Cuba. We got illiteracy in the water. Help me with that. Help me with that. Cuba has the best, okay, just sit there. It is the first country to eliminate mother-to-child transmission of HIV. And 54% of the national budget goes to social services. In contrast, the United States, 57% of the budget goes to the military. Cuba's accomplished all of this while under the embargo of the most powerful country in the world. The more Cuba is hated and attacked by our government, the more we should embrace and support the Cuban people. They are the spirit of Congo Square. They are the spirit of Toussaint Louverture. They are the spirit of Charles Dessalines of the 1811 revolution. They are the spirit of Antonio Maceo. They are the spirit of Fidel. They are the spirit of the ubiquitous African drum. Their spirits demand that we stand together in solidarity against all oppressions, especially done in our name, and from which we may even benefit. So tonight, I ask you to sign a petition asking our mayor and our city council to support the resolution condemning the embargo of Cuba. And with that opening remark, I'm available to ask questions or whatever.
Please, anyone, any questions that you might have for Ted tonight, please fill out the index card. And if you write your name at the top of the index card, we will call on you to ask that yourself, as long as you can do it in about a minute. We appreciate that. Ted, I have a question just to kick off. How is the crime rate in Cuba as far as gun violence is concerned?
I can't give you a statistic. I can tell you this. In New Orleans, I don't walk down dark streets by myself at night. In New Orleans, if I was walking down the dark street and I saw some fellow standing on the corner looking, I would walk another way. In Cuba, in Santiago, I took the pictures out of this, but I had the pictures in there before, just to make it a little shorter. Me and Chuck Perkins We walked all over Cuba. Sometimes I walked with him, sometimes I went by myself. I walked down every dark street there is. I don't even speak Spanish. Never felt unsafe. The police and the people of Cuba don't want nobody getting messed over. I never saw anything like it. The police are not like for you to be scared of. They're actually there to help you. I don't know. They don't have like gun violence like we have, because there ain't a lot of guns. It's not the same as here. But also, their revolutionary spirit is different than us. I, me, mine, mine is mine. I, me, mine, and mine. And what yours is mine too if I'm slick enough to get it. And if I got a gun and you got fancy tennis shoes, your life ain't worth as much as your tennis shoes. I would take them. But in Cuba, they got a different mentality. They have something in Cuba called I hope I don't get this wrong. I'm going to make up the word. Committees for the Defense of the Revolution. Every neighborhood has a committee for the defense of the revolution. Every neighborhood. And there'll be certain people in the committee for the defense of the revolution. You know them all because they're your neighbors. But there'll be one of the people I know is in charge of cultural affairs for her people. She has to make sure there's programs for the kids, that there's stuff for the old people, that they have stuff. Then you have someone that cleans streets. Then you got someone, I saw, and I just said in here there ain't no homelessness, but I saw this man that looked like he was homeless and kind of on the crazy side. And so I was with somebody. I said, this is Cuba, how come this is? She said, I know his name, I know his people. He will not accept our services, but we take care of him anyway, but on his terms. I'm telling you, it's different. It's different.
You got a question, please.
The first one is, was that you tag dancing in the photos?
Here in New Orleans, there was no place, was called the Juju Band, a couple blocks from my house. And they would always have Sharon Martin and Michaela Harrison and other less Jetrick and fun. I love that. I don't know if I can dance, but I definitely have fun trying. You will see, there's a man on this film, you'll see him, one of the people that's been dancing with the woman from the back turn. That man is a famous Cuban dancer. I didn't know that because he was just in the audience. And when he got called up, the singer asked me to come dance. I said no, because I didn't know how to dance like they did. I saw this man get up, and when he started dancing, I said, hell, that's New Orleans dancing. I can do that.
The next one is more or less a statement.
Yeah, well, no, it's a question.
Ask it, because this...
Well, let me say, my question was that under the Obama administration, they lifted restrictions on travel to Cuba, especially for Cuban families, but also for tourists too. And it looks like they were going in that direction. And now, of course, Obama under his administration, there were a lot of deportations. People don't know that, but so it looked like things were getting better under the Obama administration. So we're backsliding now. Is that?
Well, figure this. Is there anything that the Trump administration has not deconstructed since he got elected? Any environmental regulation, anything good for the people, he took it. Everything bad, he's given us. And the restrictions on Cuba have been stepped up. Imagine New Orleans with a blockade around it, where we can't get normal stuff from normal commerce. You just can't get it. Imagine we are a tourist city like them. And other countries say, well, we ain't going to respect the United States blockade of New Orleans. We're going to come and we're going to bring our ships. Like you go down here to the Mississippi River, you see them big ships coming in here? 1,000 tourists get off that ship. And they come in here and spend money. Every new musician on the street corner making some of that money. Everybody working, making some of that money. In Cuba, I sat and watched those ships come in, see 1,000 people come in, and they spending money with all of the vendors, the taxi cab drivers are doing good, the little places where people sing and dance, they doing good. Everybody doing good. It's a hustle too, because see, the Cuban, the socialist country, they pay everybody. Every human being in Cuba gets money. Problem is, it's not a lot. and so it's necessary to have a little hustle of some kind. So there's entrepreneurship going on within the socialist system all the time. But it's not a greedy, vulgar thing. I don't know, it's based on some kind of decency. Decency.
The next question is, what are Cuban elections like? And also, what kind of democracy is it?
I can't totally answer the question on the Cuban elections. I know that everybody votes, but then they got a Communist Party that may determine who the candidates are and so forth. But in terms of what is democracy, what does democracy really mean? We get to vote. We get to vote. Of course, they're now trying to take away our right to vote. Our Secretary of State has a computer with a software developed by a man named Chris Kobach to eliminate 7 million voters in the United States. In the state of Louisiana, they are using that to target young students, anybody who live at their house with their mama and then go to school someplace else. They say they got 2 addresses. They're targeted to be purged from the voter registration. But you won't know that. There's already thousands of names already in it for the purge. It's already there. But they're not going to tell you about it till it's too late for you to register if you got kicked off. So yeah, we got the right to vote. We got 2 parties that run. Both of them damn near the same. Well, I can't say that anymore. I used to say that. I can't say that anymore. There's definitely a difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. The Republican Party ain't nothing but a bunch of racists. That's period. That's my opinion. And you can't prove to me that it's different because of what they do. But anyway, about Cuba, I'm sorry. But the elections in Cuba, going back to Cuba, I did mention to you that they have committees for the defense of the revolution. So I asked this question, not about voting, but how do the people's voice get heard? Because I mean, the country, I'm hearing this dictatorship. Y'all ain't got no rights. And that's when it was explained to me. At the neighborhood level, you got the people working on stuff. But there's some things can't be solved at the neighborhood level. So there's another committee a little higher than the neighborhood committee that brings neighborhoods together and says, look, the streets, we don't have no money to repair the streets, and the streets are bad in your area, my area, and this area. What are we going to do? So then they see what they can do at their level of responsibility. But then some of that is too big for their responsibility. So then that would filter up to the Communist Party, and the Communist Party person who also lives in the neighborhood and also is a part of this, they would take it to that higher body that says, look, in Santiago, they're saying this, and they're saying the same thing in Havana. Oh, and they're saying the same thing over here. But we're noticing the difference between the rural people and the city people, and the problems are different. We have to have a strategy to address these problems. So the democracy goes up like that, people inform it, and it comes down in the form of what they can do or what they can't do, but what the people will have to do. Does that make sense? That's how it works.
The next question is, what funds the road work, the schools, and the various programs, the social ones stuff?
The way I understand it, now you hit me with these hard questions. The way I understand it, it's a socialist country, so the communist, the government owns all of the capitalistic means of production, except that which individuals do with their private enterprise, little hustle stuff. So all of the money, when we go to work for U.S. Steel makes billions of dollars and gets tax breaks or whatever. But in Cuba, there ain't nobody taking the profit. All of the profit is plowed back into the people. That's when I said 57% goes to social services. They don't have a capitalist class that puts the money in their pocket. Now that doesn't mean there might not be some corruption, but corruption is a crime. You understand? We have corruption, but it's legal. They steal from us legal. If they steal in Cuba, it's a crime. Here they steal, it's called making a profit. So their profit is plowed back to the people. And that's why everybody in Cuba has a salary. Everybody has a job and everybody has a salary. It ain't much money, so they have to have little hustles and stuff. But it is what they can do. See, that's the difference. It's what they can do. If you live someplace and and I told you we have $3,000, and all of us in this room has got to live on that $3,000 for the next month. We try to figure out how to do it. But I'm going to take $1,500, y'all going to do $15,000, the other $1,500 between all of you. That ain't right. That's America. There, everybody has to share in things. Let me give one more story to make my point. Castro. They had a period called, I forget the word for it, but it's a word that meant it was hunger everywhere. It was when the Russians pulled out and the blockade started, the special period. The special period was a period of immense suffering in Cuba. You had no fat dictator like in Korea with a big belly while millions of people starved in Cuba. Castro ate the same rations that were rations for the people. And when you look at the pictures of Castro from that period, you see this skinny, gaunt man. Because whatever the people feel, I'm going to feel. That's the kind of leadership they have in Cuba. That's why we got to wrap ourselves around a revolutionary spirit like that takes care of everybody. And no leader at the top going to get back off the poverty of the people. They're going to suffer the same thing and try to make it better.
Public transportation in Cuba. What is it like? Is it cheap and is it widespread?
Yes, it is cheap and it is widespread. Okay, did you see them pictures of the motorcycles? That's like 5 cents. You jump on the back motorcycle, they take you wherever you want to go. Cabs are like $4. That might be a little bit expensive for some people in Cuba. You'll see buses. I rode on them. And there'll be packed with people. I don't know, might have cost 25 cents, I don't know. But it's an interesting ride. And what can I say? So there is, and I think you saw some pictures of a donkey carrying a rope with a little wagon behind it. That's public transportation too. So they don't have like a RTA. Maybe they do in Havana, but not in Santiago. But they do have buses that run all the time, and you just go. You know? I think some of it might even be free, but some of it I know you have to pay a little bit of money for.
Okay. The last one says, can you say more about the cancer vaccine?
I can't say more about the cancer vaccine except that it exists. That Cuba, this poor country, with the blockade, has come up with cures for cancer. HIV transmission stopped. Doctors from all over the world come to learn from the Cubans, and the Cubans send doctors all over the world. They train American people here can go to Cuba and become a doctor. Damn near for free. You can go from here and become a doctor. They are, I don't know the answer to the specific question on cancer. I just know that they are coming up with cures and ways to treat people that are outstanding. And they've done it without all of the rip-off that we have from the medical establishment, from the prices we pay for drugs. They do it for the people.
All right. Thank you, Ted. Let me just ask about consensus. How many of our Justice and Beyond members of this forum tonight are in absolute agreement that we need to end this embargo and that there is great benefit that we could have from ending this embargo with Cuba? If you're in agreement that we need to adopt this resolution and stand with Ted and taking this to our city council, just signify by saying, I'm in. Amen. All right. I think you have all right. Thank you, Ted. Appreciate you. And Ted, you'll keep us updated on when we can go to the city council meetings with you. if anybody wants to be with Ted and helping him take this before City Council and joining him in this fight to get this embargo ended, please see him. And Ted, just know, as Justice and Beyond and the Pillars, that we are behind you 100%, and we will be there to stand with you on this. Again, please show your appreciation for Mr. Ted Quant and that excellent presentation. Thank you, sir. All right, at this time, I'd like to invite to the stage Ms. Monique Harden and also Logan Burke, who have been doing absolute phenomenal work in our fight against Entergy and their corruption and their taxing of the people in New Orleans, wanting to send us down a path of poverty instead of a path of progress that they're trying to tell us about. They continue to promote lies, deception, corruption, and a cover-up. And Logan and Monique have been instrumental in revealing that cover-up. So with no further ado, I'll turn it over to Ms. Monique Harden and Logan Burke for this presentation on Entergy's deception. Welcome, Logan. Welcome, Monique. First of all, tell us who you're with, introduce yourselves, and then go about your presentation, please.
Well, I think we're going to start from Logan. She has something very special to tell you about her beginning.
I'm
listening.
I'm Logan Burke. Some of you know me from these meetings and others. So I was born in Miami, and the very first hands that held me were a doctor who was from Cuba, actually. So I thought it was a nice little segue here. I'm with the Alliance for Affordable Energy, and we are a consumer and environmental advocate around energy issues across Louisiana.
Okay, and good evening. My name is Monique Harden. I'm an attorney here in New Orleans, and I work at the Deep South Center for Environmental Justice for New Orleans. We've been around since 1992, and our work is in improving the lives of African American and other children and families of color who are vulnerable to climate change and harmed disproportionately by toxic industrial pollution.
So Monique and I are going to talk a little bit about what is happening right now as it relates to Entergy's gas plant, which a lot of you have heard about, and Entergy's rate case. A rate case is just simply when the utility says it is either required to or asks to open its books and make a change in how we pay for our energy bills.
All right. So just to start with an opening question, does anyone know how Entergy is regulated in the city of New Orleans? Did you just raise your hand?
It uses money to pay politicians.
Penny?
The
City council is the regulator.
And that's unique, isn't it?
We're the only city in the United States that regulates a utility company.
Wow.
So if the city council regulates Entergy, then who regulates the city council? We do. We do. Right?
We're supposed to.
Well, the whole point of Justice and Beyond is to get from supposed to making it real, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So Entergy is only as good as we want it to be. So the fact that Entergy is as bad as they are is because the city council is bad at regulating, and we're not so good at regulating the city council on being on Entergy. And so I really want us to think about what are some things that we as people, as residents of the city of New Orleans, could do differently to make a change in the way Entergy operates. And the change really starts with us. And so if you think about it, since 1922, the city of New Orleans has had the power to regulate utility services. That there was a gap in time where that was suspended, but in the 1980s it was brought back again. Y'all remember the Nazi struggle. And then Entergy came in as a private company after that. And so since that time, what we have seen it's sort of like a small little nosebleed that becomes a major asthma problem that becomes lung cancer. And so, there's some nosebleed moments, right? And we're kind of now, I think, at a cancer point where intervention is vital. It's not terminal. We do need to do some major cutting. But we really need to jump in the surgery called the City of New Orleans Regulation of Entergy. We're all surgeons in this. We all got to pick up sticks. And so what we want to lay out to you is some of what the cancer is, our diagnosis of the problem, and work that has been happening to medically, surgically, politically, democratically correct all of that. So I'm going to just frame it with that. Just really, as you think about city council members, think about how often have I, as a resident of New Orleans, every month I open up that Entergy bill. I have one friend who doesn't even open up the envelope. Just where that little cutout is for his address, he just peels it back a little bit further just to get that total. like it's a wound, right? Puts it back down, and then figures out how am I going to pay this thing, what I got to cut out, what I got to deal with, and why is it so big? Because I was gone a week ago. How does this make sense? What about bringing that into a council chamber? How do we lower the bills? If we lower the bills, what we're really talking about is taking extra excessive profits out of Entergy shareholders' pockets. Money that rightly belongs to us and should have never been taken in the first place. And so some of the information you might hear might seem kind of technical and all of that, and it is technical. But the bottom line is this company serving us? No. And unlike any other group of people, we can change that through our city council. How we vote for them, how we deal with them once they're in office, that's all something we have power and control over. Okay.
Please, everyone, remember the index cards to the left and right of the stage as well.
So, right now, I'm curious, just a show of hands, who's afraid of opening their August electricity bill? This one only? I see a few. All right. Well, I'm afraid. Right now, Entergy New Orleans, Monique mentioned that they are profiting mightily off of all of us, right? And when we say that Entergy is profiting mightily, we don't just mean that a couple of people who live uptown or who live in Metairie are putting money in their pockets. What we mean is that people who own shares of Entergy, that is, people who live in New York or California or anywhere else who want to own a piece of that company, is where we're actually sending our money. We're sending a lot more of our money, tens of millions of dollars a year, out of New Orleans. And the fact is, we're not just doing that with the utility itself, but with the people who are helping the city council make decisions. You know, we're spending between $6 and $7 million a year just sending that to some law firm in Washington, D.C., and some engineering firm in Denver, Colorado. That's a lot of money that we are putting our money, that New Orleans money is just getting lost and not helping us at all. And so for the first time in 10 years, we are in a position where Entergy's books are open. And Entergy is required at this point to reduce their rates. What they're not telling us, or what they're not really getting across to you on purpose, is that this rate reduction they're about to have is only going to last about 6 months. So have folks gotten those text messages about the path to progress? Yeah? Texts you've been hearing? Yeah. So Entergy's holding these community meetings around the city trying to tell us all that they're reducing our bills. But the fact is that they will reduce those bills as a result of the city council requiring them to do so. And then in 6 months' time, when this new gas plant comes online, those bills are going to go right back up. Now, when we talk about that gas plant, you guys have heard this $210 million cost for this gas plant for 3 years, right? We've been hearing about how expensive this gas plant is, this unnecessary, wildly overpriced gas plant. But that $210 million price tag doesn't even really touch the real cost to all of us. The real cost is closer to $700 million. And that is because Entergy hit the ball during the 2.5 years of litigation around this power plant and didn't explain that there are additional operations costs, that there are additional returns, so additional profits, additional costs of debt, additional costs for fuel, additional costs for inflation. There are huge costs that they're not really telling us about. and that they're trying to not have people talk about at these community meetings. Literally, we've had friends who are going to these meetings asking the question, what about the gas plant? And they're saying, oh no, we're not going to talk about that tonight. We're here to talk about the rate reduction. But if you talk about the gas plant, you have to talk about the rate increase. And so the Alliance for Affordable Energy, and thank goodness to Monique and lots of our friends that work on this stuff, have helped bring to light the real cost of this gas plant, the real cost of Entergy's profits on the backs of New Orleanians. So, for example, nearly 20,000 families in our city last year spent almost 30% of every dollar they brought in and gave it right back to Entergy. Can you imagine, every dollar you earn, 30 cents of that goes to the utility. That's a lot of money, and that's a lot of people in our city who are really struggling under these really heavy profits that Entergy is making and sending around the world and not keeping here in New Orleans. So what we're doing right now is asking that Entergy and the City Council's advisors, those very high-paid advisors, are not the only ones who get to make a decision about where our money goes. Right now, Entergy and those advisors together are working really hard to push through the media, to push through your phones and text messages in these community meetings to say, no, we're here to fix it for you. We're here to reduce those bills. But they're not being honest, and they're not letting us really be a part of this conversation. And so we're here to ask you, as Monique has done, to be a part of this, to hold your city council members accountable, to insist that if they continue to send all of our money away from New Orleans, that they can't continue to represent us. That's their job. We elect them to represent us. And if they're not doing so, then they shouldn't be able to continue to hold that job. I'm going to stop for a moment and see, Monique, you want to?
Sure, catch up. Oh, I'm sorry.
I don't know. Can y'all hear me on this one?
Okay. I think your mic makes you sound smarter, so I wanted So a couple of points I think is extremely important to think about with the City Council, and I'll start it by just sharing my own experience. We had a voluminous document that Entergy submitted back in 2016 that was called Integrated Resource Plan. Makes you go to sleep, doesn't it? And what it lays out is their vision on how they're going to supply energy to us and how much they're going to charge us for it and how much they think we will be demanding of it. So, of course, the supply is high and the demand is even higher. And they used this plan to say, we need a new gas plant. And there were these, information going around saying that gas plant would be in New Orleans East. So Deep South Center for Environmental Justice, we moved into action, put together fact sheets laying out and simplifying what this planning document is and this recommendation for a new gas plant at a time when people have moved solar on their rooftops in New Orleans East and neighborhoods all around, when companies like Entergy and other parts of the country, including the South, are moving towards renewable energy and energy efficiency. They're not building new gas plants. At a time when the plan for this gas plant would operate just for a few days in the summertime. Yeah, it's called a peaking plant. And so the idea is that when there's peak demand, when the demand goes above average, they would need to turn this thing on to supply that extra amount needed, and then turn it off when that demand goes up. So it's not a 24/7, ordinary run gas, electric generating plant. It's a peaking plant.
And to be clear, even if it's not on, we're still paying for it.
Well, yeah, sure.
Like a car in the driveway, hanging out.
You're still paying that note whether you drive it or not. And so one of the things that we got back when we did the fact sheet was that folks from Entergy wanted to meet with us. And when they met with us, they had the same story, which was, there's no specific plan for a gas plant. Well, when you recommend it, yeah, but it's not specific. We're wondering, why were they holding on to this word specific when the gas plant is pretty well defined in this plan? And then, so with the fact sheets, we bring it out to community folks and community meetings. People turn out for the big public hearing at city council chambers. They, voice their opinions on this plan and the recommendation for a gas plant. Of course, there was no one there in support of the gas plant. In fact, Entergy executives were not even in the room. They had two guys who, they look like young interns with clipboards sitting way in the far east corner of the council chambers. So they didn't even have the gumption to show up to defend this plan. And the council advisor said at the end of the meeting that her remark was that she noticed that a lot of people were talking about this gas plant and that there was nothing in the plan itself, in this document, that was, quote, a specific plan for a gas plant. I'm thinking, that's Entergy executives line, and now the council's advisors have the same language. That's unusual. The meeting was on a Thursday afternoon. Guess what happened on Monday? Entergy turned in a 100-plus page application for a gas plant. So this company lies like a rug. And that's before the paid actor stuff. And we're seeing that what they have had to, what the rate case that Logan is talking about that has forced them to do, that in order to get the money, they got to show what the expenses are. And now we're getting into the real. Because the application that they had for the gas plant said it's going to cost $210 million. The council approved it. Told us all it was $210 million. Now that they want to get this rate hike to pay for the gas plant, now they're having to get real on the expenses. And when you look at it, we would be on the hook for paying for this gas plant over the next 30 years some $700 million. And that's assuming that the hurricane won't wipe it out and they would have to rebuild it and more inventory out of tune about $1 million coming in on a frequent basis going forward. So they put it in a sensitive spot that FEMA policy says you don't put a power plant. City council ignored that when they approved it. So on the rate case focus, it's looking at that bill cost. What should go in the bill and how much should it be? Should New Orleans remain in this position we have right now as being second in the United States for highest energy burden on low-income households? That's where we are right now. Memphis beats us. We're number 2. Okay? Even if you look at only southern cities, we're number 2. We're the second highest among all U.S. cities, looking just only at low-income households. And we're second, no matter who you're looking at, we're second highest. That hasn't changed. And so one of the goals for this rate case, and the council should be urging you all to talk to the city council, is that we got to be getting out of the number 2 spot. The city council should have that as their goal. When the city of Memphis got the same report and the data showing that they were number 1, you know what their city council person said? And they don't even regulate the companies, but they can influence policy that happens at the Tennessee state level of government. She said, we're declaring war on high energy bills. Has anyone from the city council ever said something like that? And they are immediately answerable to us on how they regulate Entergy. So it's going to require all of us making that demand known to our city council members. We can't be cynical on that. They've got to roll, they got to hear from us, and they got to be pressed and pressured on this. This is an organizing advocacy fight.
Thank you.
And that's the ultimate. But until then, this is where the fight is. And even voting them out takes organizing and advocacy. So the fight, that work doesn't stop. So let's be clear on that. If I can just say one.
Yes, then we're going to move to some questions.
Oh, okay. So that's the rate case. The other thing to keep in mind is what's going on with this gas plant. Right now we're in court. Y'all know that Judge Piper Griffin voided the city council's approval of the gas plant. Why? Because the decision was made in a process that violated the democratic process that we have in Louisiana called the Open Meetings Law. What does Open Meetings Law say? It says that every person in the state has a right to attend and observe any public meeting, wherever they may be. You have a right to go in and see what's going on. You can't be shut out. You can't have locked doors. We had shutouts and locked doors. The second thing that the Open Meetings Law says is that you have a right to make a comment before any decision is made. So the time period that the council gives folks to give a comment, you have a right to be a part of that making a comment. You can't be shut out and locked out from making a comment. And in both instances, that was the case. We also know that Entergy aggravated the problem, right, by filling up the seats with paid actors who were paid to speak from scripts that were handed to them by Entergy, speaking in favor of the gas plant. Also paid to boo and hiss when anyone talked about solar options or energy efficiency as alternatives to a gas plant, or that there's a better way. They were paid to boo and hiss that. And so the city council got a very a fake show of support for a gas plant from people who are pretending to be you. They were paid to pretend like they were you and fill up the seats and keep y'all out because it was overcrowded to make a decision. That's what they're in court appeal. And delaying that and drawing that process out as long as they can so that Entergy can continue to build the gas plant. We are not giving up the legal fight, but we need the street fight on this.
Amen.
We need y'all out at city council. Everybody has how many city council members? 3. You've got 2 at-large members and your 1 council district. Right? So Helena Moreno, Jason Wynn for the 2 at-larges, Banks, Brossette, Cindy Wynn, Jeruso, and Kristen Gilson Palmer are the district council members. If you haven't talked to them lately, now's the time to give them a call.
Right.
Let them hear from you. We need the people in the city of New Orleans to rise up on this because Entergy is not going to get less of a problem. They're going to become more of a problem.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And just a couple, thank you, Monique, and thank you, Logan. We're going to move to some questions, but a couple of things. Number one is Entergy declared war on the people of New Orleans.
Yes, they did.
And just as Memphis declared war on energy and rising prices, we need to declare war back on Entergy and say the price of everything in New Orleans is going up. Property taxes, the price of rent, the price of housing, the price of water, the price of electric, and we've got to declare war on all prices of utilities going up, including Entergy and their bogus lying to us. Someone also said, I heard someone on the audience say something about what Monique, you making the comment that they played us. There was a woman who was given a script to play a single mother and act like she had 3 kids, and was given that exact script to tell before city council so that city council would hear their case and continue to lock us out. And so that's how they played us. And so we're not going to continue to allow them to play us, right?
That's right.
That's what we cannot do. So we've got some questions for you. Any more questions, please hand those in. We've got about 4 up here at the top.
Dr. Jones?
So, I would ask, do you think it's reasonable to do something like this? Because I would certainly do it. We only submit 25% or 50% of our energy bill payment to Entergy. It'll put them on the defense financially, and it'll let them know that we ain't going to go for it.
I want to say yes, but I'll tell you, I don't want to give anybody a recommendation that's going to hurt your credit, because they can do that. They can send that to collections, they can send that, and that would concern me. The thing that hurts them the most is when we use less of their wasteful energy. The thing that would hurt them the most is if we actually all work together and shut all of our lights, all of our HVAC, all of our everything down in a concerted way. That would really show them what
So you're
for.
saying pick a day and an hour where everyone turns it off.
That would really do it. But I like your plan. I like your plan, but I don't want to. I never want to tell you to do anything that's going to hurt your pocketbook ever. Do you know what I mean?
The thing I would suggest, though, is that the same as we were talking about with the water bills. As long as you're paying something, they're just going to send you more and more notices. But they're going to know what the problem is. When they see that everybody in New Orleans, and of course, this requires a large number of people, okay? When they see that everybody in New Orleans is only paying 50% of their bills, you're going to get 1 notice, 2 notices, 3 notices. But as long as you're sending some money in, they're not going to turn off your electricity, and they're not going to report you. But they're going to get the notice. They're going to understand after a moment or two, oh, something's wrong here.
That's fun. I'm liking that one.
The next one say, who do the people of New Orleans have to read the open book? Who do the people of New Orleans have to read the open book?
Oh, the open book, which is to say that when Entergy opens its books, its economics. It's like what it's spending its money on, how it's spending its money. There are kind of two answers to that. One is the Alliance for Affordable Energy takes the role of the consumer advocate in the state of Louisiana. We don't receive funding to do that from the state or from the people of our state, which is somewhat unusual. Typically, an organization, rather, I'll say it this way, most states have an organization like ours that's funded to do this work. And so the Alliance, we do our best. The City Council would say we have the advisors to do that. Remember, those are the folks who get that $6.5 to $7 million a year to agree with Entergy. That's the problem, is that these consultants that we send all of our money out of state to have had these contracts for 35 years. Can you imagine keeping your job if your job meant that all the people that you were serving were hurting as a result of the work that you've been doing? That's effectively where we are. These folks have been given an awful lot of money to hurt us, an awful lot. And so I would say that they're not really looking out for us.
And not even elected.
So the Alliance has a lot of the records on all the publicly available documents on our website. You can go to all4energy.org, all the number 4 energy.org, and you can get information on the rate case through our website. And if you have questions about specific line items, like for example, Entergy's trying to earn a profit on the money they're spending on their lawyers and economists to ask for this rate case. $3.7 million that they're doing, that they're spending, they want to earn a profit on that, which is outrageous.
What was the punishment of Energy for the fake people in the meeting?
Okay, so the city council imposed a settlement of, a penalty, a penalty or a sanction of $5 million. So what does that mean in the world of the gas plant and the profit? Entergy's plan is to earn about $148 million in profiting from the gas plant. So $5 million is easily the cost of doing business. The other thing to keep in mind is that the city council, is that Entergy has kind of shown its cards that it wants to treat the penalty as a settlement. And under IRS tax treatment, they can make all America paid for that $5 million by taking it off as a business tax deduction. So that's something we got to be on the lookout for. It's just, yeah. But $5 million is always a drop in the bucket and an easy thing for Entergy to come in agreement with the city council. That money was, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I've just got an addendum as soon as you're done.
Oh, okay. And then the city council has set up an ordinance for a fund where that $5 million is to be parked. No public details as to how that would be, what it'd be used for. But that's the long and the short of the $5 million, plus Logan's addendum that's coming right now.
So Entergy got in all of this trouble because one of the contractors they hired was brought in these actors. And so when Entergy got caught, they said, well, we're going to sue that contractor because it's that contractor's fault. That contractor has now handed Entergy $1 million. So Entergy's sanction is really only $4 million.
And that contractor will continue to work for Entergy. So, this is their little way of, okay, all right, we're good.
Do we know how much influence Energy has over the city council? And the other part of it is, what city council members are in Energy, or Energy has in their pocket? And let's be very frank about it. Yeah.
So right now, before the May election, we had a different grouping of city council members. There was only one council member who voted no on the gas plant, and that was Susan Guidry, Council District A. mid-city parts of Carrollton uptown. She's I think she was term limited out. She didn't run again. She's been replaced by Joe Giarrusso, who is pro-Entergy gas plant all the way. Can't see anything wrong with anything. And I had the distinct pleasure and honor at a city council meeting of outing Jay Banks as a former employee consultant of Entergy, although he never, ever disclosed that. That was the thing. As well as the Denver, Colorado technical engineering company also hired him. Like, what's his technical engineering background? I'd like to know. Maybe there's something technical in engineering about Zulu. I don't know. That just I don't know. They got to get the folks to run down the street. Maybe that, I don't know. But he worked for both. He worked for both, and now is sitting on the city council to regulate both. But that's a huge conflict of interest. Cindy Wynn has been written about frequently in the Times-Picayune before John Georges took it over as an owner for taking Entergy money as a council member. So before she was a council member and as a council member. So those are two people who are just on the record in terms of having a major conflict of interest in as a regulator of a company that you worked for, that you take money from. And what we know from all the others is that there's no daylight between them and what Entergy wants. And so that goes from Helena Moreno, the person at large who's running the utility committee, the committee that regulates Entergy, and she's an at-large member of the city council, and all the rest. They all voted to accept the $5 million penalty for Entergy's paid actors. They're all in this appeal of the judgment voiding the approval of the city council. So that's your answer. All 7 right now are a problem. And all 7 really need to be talked to, frankly and candidly, by each of their constituents.
Reverend Gilmore. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I have a couple of statements along with a question, okay? Okay, my statement is Entergy needs to come out of the solo status for all of our power. And they really need competition. We need to really go after bringing other utility companies here. It's been said by upcoming politicians that we need to place new vendors here, and we need that for cable and Entergy. And maybe we need to look into the water, sewage and water board also. My second statement kind of went into the first about competitive companies are really needed. And we should be forcing the city council to know that they work for us. We don't work for them. And they need to be fired. You know, I'm going to speak for myself, and I'm more than sure I'm not the only one in here that feels this way. This is not all about just because you elected, you sit in the meeting and head it with all your charm and glamour, and you make rules that we go by. No, no, no. We need to start putting a cap on these elected officials, no matter who they are, even Mr. Trump, and I'll tell him too. Okay, sir, that all y'all work for us, and it's time y'all get out of our pocketbooks and start opening your bank statements and stop getting paid all under the table and trying to take, and excuse me, but rape us, because that's what they're doing, and nobody's saying anything but a few of us that come together and voice our opinion. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I just had a quick question, a point of clarification. I was at that meeting with the paid actor fiasco, and then, of course, there was the fine. But if the judge ruled that that was an unethical and illegal decision, how can you said there was approval made just recently? How can they even begin to approve the process of the plant until that has been settled?
So they haven't. I want to be very clear. This city council has not approved or reapproved this power plant. Entergy continues to tell us that they have reapproved the power plant. That is a lie. Entergy is referring to the resolution that was the sanction that said, Entergy, you must give us $5 million because you've been lying. And Entergy's like, oh, great, we're fixed then, right? We get to build it. No, that resolution nowhere says you get to build it. That resolution says, whatever you do out there, you need to report to us. But it doesn't say you have to. And so Entergy continues to twist and tangle the truth, including in their filings, in legal documents. They're twisting the truth. And we cannot continue to let them do that. And so I really appreciate that point, that we have to make sure that we're not the only people who know this. Because Entergy is going to the Advocate, they're going to all of the TV and radio stations, and lying to our faces, lying to our ears. And we cannot continue to say, oh, well, then you must do that. Because it's just not true.
Thank you. Mr. Brian, like to ask a question.
More, are you familiar with demand meters? Okay.
You mean for like commercial customers?
Yeah. So what happened after Katrina, I'm still associated with St. Luke's Episcopal Church. And after Katrina, what they did, Entergy was in cloud, they asked our builder, the electrical contractor, to make sure that our meters were certified, is what they called it. And we gained an extra meter. And I was like, wow, I'm looking there and there's this big, our regular meters, and there's this really big one with a light on it that's real pretty that's digital. And I was trying to figure out, what does that thing do? And I called Entergy, at the time I was the head of the church board, and I called Entergy and said, well, what does that meter do? They said, oh, well, that meter allows us to digitally go in and read your numbers, basically, is what she told me. And I said, I don't know, but ever since that thing's been on the wall, our electric bill has been almost double. And I was trying to figure out, how does this work? So what I did is, they used to have these little guys called AccuRead people come around and read the meter. And I said, well, what's going on? He said, well, these little meters here, we're interested in those, but the one that we really need to get accurately is the big guy. And I said, well, how does it work? He said, well, you're now a commercial property, and you're a church. So it used to be Monday through Friday was where the peak hours of usage would happen. Well, now all of a sudden, on Sundays from 8 to 12 is a peak usage time. Our church was, we do church on Sunday, and we very rarely do anything inside the church area any other time. One meter only goes to the church. That bill was $900. And we only go to church on Sunday. And he said, well, the problem, this is the young man that's reading the meter telling me, he says, well, what happens is, because you go on Sunday and you don't really have any usage any other day, your bill is average for the 30 days on that 1 2-hour session that you do on Sunday is the bill you get for the whole month. I think that's very, very unfair.
It is. So demand meters are, you described it very, very well. They're typically only for commercial customers. And
not nonprofit churches.
No, commercial customers, nonprofit churches fall under commercial.
Okay.
Commercial just typically means it's a non-resident, basically. And so a demand meter reads, if you imagine the high watermark of how much energy you're using during a billing cycle, so not just the week, but for the month. And what the worst of it that I've heard, that's terrible. And the purpose of a demand meter is not just for them to charge, but it also helps them understand what are our peaks, and then how do we build power plants to meet our peaks, right? And so they say, all right, the aggregate of all these demand meters around town, that's our total high water mark. But the problem is, if you imagine how many churches in this city have a high water mark that is totally different at a time than everybody else's high water mark, it means we're building power plants to meet your high water mark on top of everybody else's high water mark. Meaning we're building too many power plants, right? And we're all paying for those power plants, right? And then what we're hearing is that there are places where the Entergy won't come read the demand meter. So let's say you get a high water mark here, and then they just hold it there for a couple months and leave it there. Even though your demand has fallen during that, they have to come and reset it. They're supposed to every month, but they won't do it.
Let's just pay them 50%. Pay them 50%.
So I'm loving that idea.
25, she said
25.
Let's just pay them 25%.
So the thing that I would recommend is you can actually get a demand, like basically like an interior display, and they don't cost very much. Actually, I'll give you my card. I'll give you one that you can attach to your like your switch box, and you can measure it yourself. You can find out what your high water mark is for the month. You can find out. You can actually read your display like hour to hour. I can look at mine right now and tell how much demand I'm pulling in my house at any time. And then it also adds it up over the course of the month, and so you can measure that yourself. And if it's off, you can call it. That's what I do. So I'll give you my cost.
Thank you.
The next question is there a law or something in the state constitution that prohibits a cost cap on utility construction?
No, there is no law or regulation that would prohibit the council from putting a cap on either the total cost of the power plant, which they haven't done, or on the total cost to residents. So part of the or businesses or the people of New Orleans. And what that means is Entergy has based what they're saying this power plant is going to cost each of us on an assumption that they're going to be able to sell a lot of that energy outside of Orleans Parish, and therefore pay down our basically mortgage costs on the plant, is what it is. But that's insane because the amount that they're projecting they can sell it off out of Orleans Parish is inflated by like 16,000%. The value, but there's literally, I'm not joking. And so what they're saying is, oh no, we're going to be able to sell it at this crazy high inflated rate outside of Orleans Parish, and you're not going to have to pay for any of that. But that's never going to happen. That's not a world that exists. Is not a world that has ever existed. And so, I hope, yeah.
Can I just add something on that? If you can picture a teenager with a face full of pimples, and of all those pimples, you can almost ignore all of them except for one. It's the biggest, the largest, the oozingest, the grossest of all the pimples. That's the utility sector. All the pimples are utility companies all over planet Earth and how they get down. And we, with Entergy, we've got like that big giant bringing the paid actors, lie, oozing pimple one. I think it's about the bus, but it just doesn't. Yeah. So it's really nasty, it's really greasy, it's really gross and all that. And so what are all the utility companies doing on planet Earth? They are all hedging against the future. Where is the future? Solar and wind energy. How much does that cost? Well, how much does your kingdom cost? Right? So you need installation materials to transfer, to make the generation happen. Once you pay for that, the operation, you don't pay for that. The sun comes in, your power is in the house or your office building or workplace. And so for utility companies, the question about the monopoly and the pastor was talking about, Reverend was talking about, the way they make their money is one or two ways. They build something or they get more customers, right? And so with solar and wind coming into town and this whole fossil fuel and building more power plants kind of going out, well, what are we going to do for the next 30 years? What's going to be Entergy? Oh, we'll just lie and steal and bring paid actors into the room to say we need this gas plant. So at least for the next 30 years, we can count on $148 million rolling in, and maybe more if we have to keep rebuilding it or coming up with more excuses of why we can charge them more, because no one's paying attention. The city council is ours for the taking, and we run the show. And so that's really what we're up against, is fighting that. In India, California, you name it, these utility companies are popping gas plants down all over the place because they know that that's where their money is. Their money is not in solar and wind. That's where we make our money. That's where we get freedom, right? That's where we can do more with our paychecks and income, not them. And so if they can just hold customers hostage to paying for something we don't need, then they win. And we're really trying to break that chain here. And I'm wondering if one of the things we can do at Justice and Beyond, I know it's going to be hard, but if we can force the council members to come out for a town hall on this.
Absolutely. We can do that, 100%.
And I like the bill strike idea, too. We got to coordinate that 25%, that's all you get. Until you change, you get, until you change, here's your change, 25%.
We've got to continue to agitate them as we have, and I want y'all to speak to real briefly because it's 6:43. But I want you to speak to real briefly that we have had them on the ropes. We've been fighting hard, and we've been able to make a difference. Have we been able to make a difference? Am I correct in saying that? As FNO, as Cayenne Coalition, as Justice and Beyond, they don't like to see us coming. I went to a public meeting last week. David Ellis was mad because we were in the room in full force. He came charging at me after the meeting and said, "You just show up to cause trouble?" I said, yeah. I'm here to cause trouble. And that's what we're going to continue to do. We've made a difference, right?
That's right.
Yes, sir. So one of the things that has made a difference is that because of the work of this coalition and others as well, the City Council has passed a rule that finally enables people to collectively own solar plants. So we're a majority renter city. Most of us can't put solar on our rooftops. But we can now that we've embarrassed Entergy enough, the council has allowed for us to collectively own a solar installation and reduce our bills as a result. So that's one win we had. That's a big win. Another one is that the City Council is now considering what's called a renewable portfolio standard that will require Entergy to acquire only renewables after a certain period of time. And so over time, we'll increase our use of renewables and decrease our reliance on fossil fuels. This will decrease our bills. This will actually mean that we can stay in a city like New Orleans for the long term. But that requires, and that will continue to require, this coalition and others, including you guys, to insist to the council that this is where New Orleans must go.
How many people receive emails about Justice and Beyond meetings? Because if you don't, there's a sign-in sheet. And one thing that we would like to do is be able to, with Pat and the Pillars and Reverend Manning and Sylvia's permission, is give opportunities for public coming out and important public meetings. We won't try to beat you up too much, but really key meetings where there's a make or break moment. Absolutely. Where we need folks in the room. We'll be doing that on the email.
We continue to put that on our newsletter, on our emails, and send them out. We need everybody at Justice and Beyond to stand behind us and with us. We have said, and we stated in our press conference last week in front of City Hall that what Entergy is saying is that this is a path to progress, but it is really a path to poverty. And we already know that there are many people who are suffering in New Orleans, especially the elderly and people who are pushed out of their homes, pushed out to the east and can't live in the city anymore because that's not where they want us to live because of these racist tactics that are being employed. We need to continue to stand up, and we need everybody in here in the fight to call the question and call on the carpet our city council who works for us, as it was said before. And if they can't work for us, then they can be voted out.
Amen. Mr. Bryant.
This young man, Ted Quant, and I was standing outside of a meeting where people couldn't get in. There were about 100 people out there, couldn't get in. Ted and I put our heads together and said, this is wrong. We saw the suits from Entergy going in, going right through the front door. This people over here. He jumped into Reverend Monique and started singing.
Yes.
And then got people's attention. We held the meeting in the hall, and every time the door opened, we yelled, "Let us in, let us in, let us in." But because people were there to testify, we had the public hearing in the hall. All right, sir, you want us to do that? All right, yes. came out, and the youth people came out and fought out. Now, this is, I want to thank Ted for working with me on that. Because if I was out there by myself, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I knew it was illegal. And it was how getting people all riled up that called attention to it, that everybody began to see it was an illegal meeting. So I want to thank Ted again. We have to have that same kind of spirit as we go forward. Now let me tell you, I think you're wrong, but everybody's property taxes going what? Up. Everybody's water bill is going what? Up. Everybody's cable bill is going what? Up. Everything is going up. Now this is the San Francisco. This is no happenstance. This is the San Francisco plan. Anybody who knows San Francisco 20 years ago could see the diversity of people in San Francisco. But they raised the price of everything so much. This is going on in all cities, but it was particularly unique to San Francisco that you can't hardly find black person, poor person, anywhere in the city limits. That's what's happening in New Orleans. And we got a chance to kill it. But we got 7 city council people who are the best people, best council people money can buy. You can tell them I said it. Now, here's what we have to do, very clear. We need to start running candidates for the city council right now. And for anybody like Jason Williams who wants to be what? DA. Who wants to be DA. We need to tell them no right now. We need to be saying no, no, no. And I don't know who, look, for all the districts, we need to have somebody running now. Now guess what? It only takes 4 elected officials. Look at the entities bill, to look at the entities contract, and send a packet. It only takes 4. F-O-U-R, 4. And we got a new day. If we start telling that to the citizens of this city, people feeling all this pain, we're going to have a new day. Those guys sitting up there going to change. I think some of them will change, some of them won't. Jay Banks ain't going to change. Anybody who can say that blackface was masking and say it with a straight face, he ain't going to change this.
Thank you, Mr. Pat. Everyone, again, Logan and Monique, do you have any closing words for all of us as in the action that we need to take and what we need to do to support you and FNO and Justice and Beyond and your further work? Anything, any closing remarks, please?
I encourage you, I urge you, I beg you. Call, write a letter, send an email. I don't know how else you want to get in touch with them. Read them. Let your council members, all 3 of them, hear from you in the next 2 weeks, in the next week. Let them hear from you. Let them know that you know who they are and that you know that they have this opportunity to help us all and that you're insisting that they do so. Thank you.
If you write a letter, if you write anything like that, send it to us at Justice Beyond. We'll put it on our newsletter so everybody can see it, and so that anybody can see the example that you're setting, and they can go and do the same. Monique?
Well, I was just going to say, just like everyone can come out and to the Justice and Beyond meeting, we should bring that same energy into a city council chamber. Yes. And what Pat laid out, from sewage and water board to cable, and of course to Entergy and housing and land use planning and segregating housing and moving black people farther and farther out of the city, all of that's all with city council decision. That's all policy. That's not like the rain is falling and how do we get here? That's all policy. And that policy is coming out of that city council that's not responsive to us. And so we could be bringing all of this into those rooms. Let me just say this. When you go to a city council utility committee meeting, I was shocked and surprised by what I saw when I came to a meeting Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning one day. It was about 40 Entergy executives, who of course their billable hours would be on our bills, right? And a team of the city council advisors who charge $100 an hour for that $7 million project. Logan staff, and that was it.
Staff too.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah. 2 women and all these guys. 2 of 1, they were all men, which has its own issues. I called it a sausage party. And I said, this is what y'all have to do? And she's like, this is, I mean, you can't get more one-sided in terms of influence and power than seeing that room. And all the Entergy executives, in case you want to go back and look at video of the utility committee meeting, you'll never see them. They sit outside the range of the camera. So you'll see Logan, a staff person, maybe an intern volunteer in the middle, and then nobody else. But they are all there writing notes, texting each other and all that. Texting members of the city council for all we know. And so if those kinds of meetings need our presence, right? The city council needs to know that we're there watching them and what we expect from them.
I gotta say this real quick. Because most of the time, real quick, most of the times when they're having these types of meetings or working class community, the community is working.
Yep.
So,
yes.
My suggestion is
yes.
that we start doing these types of meetings in a more comfortable hour, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so people can get off, because that is a major problem here.
May I say something on that, sir? If you look at any other city with 100,000 or more people in the state of Louisiana, so I'm not comparing us to California or something like that, those councils meet in the evening.
We need to get that changed right now. We need to start that, and we're going to discuss that at our pillars meeting, absolutely. That whatever we need to do to get that changed, that needs to start happening next week.
Okay.
So, thank you for bringing that. Thank you.
That is fundamental, isn't it? How do you approach this? Where do you go?
Could I ask one question quickly?
Go ahead.
Monique, is there any purpose or would there anything be gained by calling during a comment period with council? Is there anything to be gained by calling them out on having their advisors in the audience and when they least need them, right? And us paying for those. Is there any, would there?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, you're paying, and let me just say this. The advisors, their money doesn't show up in the city budget. So like taxpayers, people who might be, those groups that are kind of already there for the city budget fight, they would never see the $7 million from the advisors. You know where it goes? Right on that bill. So it goes through Entergy to the customers. So in a tangled way, it's like the advisors are paid through an Entergy billing process, which it just makes it even funkier in terms of conflict and.
So we could out them.
Absolutely. Can I just say this? Logan and I were once on a conference call on the city council docket, and it was to work out like the schedule of how things were going to be filed on this particular night outside of the gas plant. All of the advisors were on this call to talk about a schedule. So they all get their full. Y'all can't coordinate and say these days work for us, not these days. Have one person just communicate that or send it on an email.
Right.
No, all of them have to show up. Only one speaks, but they all get paid.
$650 an hour.
Whoa.
Absolutely.
I just want to thank you.
Well, one last comment from Logan. Go ahead, Logan.
I just want to say thank you to all of the pillars of Justice and Beyond, all of the organizations who have been a part of this fight. 350, obviously, I mean, everybody who's been in this room and has been a part of this fight for how long now?
3 years.
It feels like my life. I'm so grateful that all of you continue to be involved and have been involved, are in those rooms, and we can't do this alone. No one can. But I feel the ability to go on and keep doing this because of all of you, so thank you.
And we echo back the very same sentiment to the tireless hours that you and Monique have given to this arduous task. Your knowledge and your expertise, we are so blessed and so honored to be in this work with you. Thank you very much for presenting that information to us. I feel the energy in this room right now. Y'all fired up? Y'all fired up? Y'all want to make a difference? We need to stand together, and whether it is paying a quarter or 50% of our bill, or having Take Back Tuesday when we turn off all the lights on energy and say we're going to take back our power from you, we need to do something. We need to kick them where it hurts, right? I'll say that in the most godly way. Kick them where it hurts, all right? That's right, that's right. We're going to stand with you and together. Listen, we got to... this has been such an amazing conversation that we are behind time in getting you out of here. But please stick around for some announcements. I know, Sylvia, you have one?